T-45. This was the very first operational power armor rushed into deployment during the brutal war between the US and the Chinese in 2067, roughly 10 years before the bombs dropped. Developed by West Tech as a stopgap solution, it changed warfare overnight. With tanks too expensive and time running out, the US needed something fast, and the T-45 delivered. Built around the now standard West Tech power armor frame, it came equipped with servomotors, trauma protection, and it allowed soldiers to carry heavy weapons like toys. Early models struggled with mobility and had a big vulnerability right below the chest plate. Still, it gave American troops a serious edge against Chinese forces, until the Gauss rifles appeared. But perhaps its biggest flaw was burning through energy cells faster than the war could supply them. Post-war, the T-45 lived on. Some Brotherhood of Steel chapters heavily rely on this model, and even other factions like the NCR and Raiders found ways to use or modify it. Many variants can be found all throughout the wasteland, from the rusty tribal version in the pit to the fully functional Scorched Sierra armor. T-51. The T-51 wasn't just an upgrade, it was the crown jewel of pre-war engineering. West Tech spent nearly a decade perfecting it to ensure it would dominate the battlefield. The T-51 entered service in 2076, just before the bombs fell, and was the finest suit of armor the US had ever built. Made from polylaminate composites and coated with a silver ablative layer, the suit could deflect lasers and shrug off radiation. A microfusion reactor in the back powered the hydraulic systems and even let soldiers recycle urine into drinkable water. Gross but life-saving. In battle, the T-51 crushed Chinese resistance, reclaiming anchorage and turning the tide of war. And centuries after the bombs, the Brotherhood of Steel soldiers still wear it proudly. Whether in hardened, ultrasight, or winterized forms, the T-51 remains one of the most effective power armor suits in the wasteland. T-60. The T-60 was born in the shadow of war's final hour. Designed as an evolution of the T-45, it rolled out after Anchorage but right before the apocalypse, which means it was only in service for over 9 months before the bombs dropped. West Tech developed it quietly, and the T-60 never really saw the full scale of war it was built for, but it was ready. Using the same power armor frame as the T-45, the T-60 refined everything. Tougher plating, higher survivable drops, and better power regulation. While the previous model, the T-51, was superior in raw performance, the T-60's real advantage was logistics. It shared parts with the much more common T-45, making it far easier to maintain and upgrade existing armor rather than building from scratch. By 2077, T-60 units were deployed domestically to maintain order, even on the day the bombs dropped. Post-war, the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel adopted it as their standard. From Tesla-enhanced versions to Dolphin-themed enlightened MIND suits, the T-60 proved adaptable. It's the armor of choice for those still fighting to hold civilization together. T-65. This model is way more niche and obscure than the previous ones, built for the United States Secret Service just before the Great War. No full suits of T-65 were ever made before the bombs fell, but the plans survived, locked away in Vault 79 with the agents who guarded them. After the war, those agents began selling the schematics to the wasteland. Compared to other power armor, the T-65 looks bulkier, and that's because it used a very different design. Instead of one solid plate for each section, it had segmented armor pieces, especially around the chest and shoulders. This helped cover weak spots that other suits left exposed, even parts of the frame that were usually vulnerable. Because of that, the T-65 has the highest protection of any power armor. It made its first appearance in Fallout 76, and it might have been the most advanced pre-war armor, if the world hadn't ended first. X-01. The X-01 was an experimental power armor created right before the Great War. The US military's advisors, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, commissioned it knowing nuclear war was coming and designed it for survival after the bombs, not just for regular combat. It marked a big shift from the T-series, with a new frame design and stronger protection. Only a few prototypes of this armor were made before the war, so it never really saw mass production. Just before the bombs fell, the X-01 schematics were sent to the Enclave, who later resumed development in 2198. Additionally, the Brotherhood of Steel and the Institute also built their own versions after the war, with the Institute adding new materials for extra durability. Special variants like the Quantum X-01 kept the armor's main goal: maximum protection in the most dangerous parts of the wasteland. Advanced Power Armor, Mark I. After the bombs, the Enclave had one mission: rebuild and dominate. Mk-1 Advanced Power Armor was their first real step. They developed it aboard the oil rig in 2220, and unlike many pre-war suits, this was no rusty relic. It was sleek, lightweight, and deadly. Built with reinforced ceramic plates and advanced servos, gave Enclave soldiers unmatched protection and mobility. The armor was developed from the pre-war X-01 prototype and became the first model to be deployed after the Great War. By 2241, it had become the Enclave's standard service armor. Seen in Fallout 2 and New Vegas, it's the armor of America's second chance, for better or worse. Advanced Power Armor, Mark II. The Mk2 was the Enclave's improved design, lighter, tougher, and even more advanced than the Mk1. Built with all-ceramic composites, it could be fitted with optional Tesla upgrades to help repel energy attacks, making it one of the most powerful suits ever produced. It was also considerably heavier than the original Mk1, but that comes as a cost of having more protection. The destruction of the oil rig crippled early production, limiting the number of suits available. Once they established their new Raven Rock facility, the Enclave was finally able to deploy these suits in high quantities. In fact, this was the Enclave's standard armor throughout Fallout 3. But this facility would eventually be destroyed as well, putting an end to the production of Mark II armors. Those that survived, though, became legends, walking symbols of Enclave superiority. Whether called Black Devil or X-02, the Mark II means business. Hellfire armor. Developed by the Enclave through a dedicated post-war research project, the Hellfire power armor represents the apex of their technological ambitions. Early prototypes were finished by 2080 and stored in Vault 51, but the final design was mass deployed in 2278. It was built after extensive analysis of previous combat encounters and older failed armor experiments. Though exact material compositions remain unclear, sources confirm that the Hellfire armor utilized newly researched materials and superior construction techniques. It lacks the specialized systems seen in other suits, but excels in sheer resilience and battlefield dominance. Its heavy, imposing frame was designed for frontline combat, where it could absorb and withstand significant punishment. The Enclave canceled other tech programs like the Duraframe project in favor of focusing on the Hellfire line, highlighting its strategic importance. In Fallout 3's Broken Steel and Fallout 76, the Hellfire armor serves as a symbol of the Enclave's renewed military push, projecting overwhelming force and intimidation wherever it appears. Excavator armor. The Excavator power armor wasn't designed for combat. It was created to give human miners an edge over rising robotic automation. Developed by Garahan mining cubs before the Great War, it used West Tech's power armor technology to create a specialized suit for industrial labor. Although the EX-17 model was powerful, it never went into full production. In a key competition against Hornwright industrial mining, human miners in Excavator suits lost to Hornwright's autonomous mining robots, largely due to cheating. Garahan's subsequent financial collapse left the project unfinished. Post-war, Vault 76 dwellers and responders uncovered and restored the armor. In Fallout 76, the yellow-black suit stands out as a rare example of civilian-use power armor. NCR Salvaged power armor. This isn't your typical power armor. Salvaged by the New California Republic from damaged T-45D suits during their conflict with the Brotherhood of Steel, this version is stripped down and repurposed for mass infantry use. To do so, NCR technicians removed the suit's servo motors and eliminated the need for special power armor training. The armor retained its heavy plating, but lost much of the mobility of a functional T-45D. Chief Hanlon, the NCR Rangers commanding officer, once described it as carrying a Brahmin on your back, but it can take a lot of punishment. It was also visually distinct from the original, missing its original shoulder pauldrons and with some parts removed from the legs. Each suit was marked with a yellow NCR Bear logo on the chest plate and red stripes on the arms, making them instantly recognizable on the battlefield. Raider power armor. Post-war Raiders didn't have the capabilities to develop a new suit of power armor, so they built off of existing ones. Raider power armor is a mishmash of scavenged T-45 and T-51 parts, scrap metal, and brute creativity. These makeshift suits are the product of desperation and scavenging, not engineering finesse. Because of its junk materials, Raider power armor provides significantly weaker protection compared to its military-grade counterparts, but it still offers a tactical edge for gangs that otherwise wouldn't have access to such gear. Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 feature numerous variants like the Blood Eagle, Junkyard, and Overboss suits, each reflecting their gang's unique aesthetic and scavenging prowess. While not reliable, it lets raiders punch above their weight. Communist power armor. Developed by the People's Republic of China, Communist power armor was based on captured American suits and marked China's attempt to catch up in the power armor arms race. However, they were still years behind the US in terms of design and functionality. Very little is known about the materials or internal systems used in this armor. It was assigned to certain commissars and served more as a status symbol than as a practical battlefield equalizer. Its presence in Fallout 76 indicates that at least some suits survived the war, and they reflect China's desperate push to mimic US power armor technology, a rare symbolic artifact of a collapsing military campaign. Union power armor. Similarly to the Enclave suits, the Union power armor was crafted after the world had already ended. Developed by the Union in the pit using leftover industrial materials, it was designed as a functional combat suit for their resistance fighters. Despite its post-apocalyptic origins, the armor offers defenses comparable to pre-war models. Though little is known about its precise construction, the Union armor reflects the practical no-nonsense engineering of survivors who needed something that could keep them alive in battle. Featured in Fallout 76, it represents the resilience of a group that built strength from industrial ruins. Hellcat power armor. The Hellcat power armor is the exclusive gear of the Hellcat Mercenary Company. Developed for faction use in Fallout 76, it's worn by mercenaries operating in both the Pit and Appalachia. While its design lineage is unclear, the Hellcat suit is built for combat operations in hazardous environments. It likely incorporates lessons learned from pre-war models and applies them in a more modular post-war context. As a faction-exclusive suit, it's used only by members of the Hellcat Company, who enforce their presence through superior armor. Sleek and threatening, it's the private military answer to traditional faction gear. Vulcan Power Armor. The Vulcan Power Armor began as standard-issue Enclave gear used by Squad Epsilon to guard the ultrasight-powered Project Vulcan, but the Scorched Plague changed everything. As Squad Epsilon succumbed to the infection, their suits began fusing with ultrasight crystals, resulting in a strange transformation. The suit's plating became warped and unstable, with jagged crystal growths spreading across the surface. Seen in Fallout 76, these corrupted suits still function as armor, but they clearly show how the Enclave failed to contain the outbreak. And that's a wrap on today's list. If you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel to catch the next uploads.